part of their extended family, and we ask you that you show those same employees the respect of not putting things in their face or asking them questions. And this is a very tedious situation. It's a lot of moving parts, from the investigative to the case to families and feelings, and there's a lot of things, and I know there's a lot of questions. I know the families have a lot of questions, and we're in a snail's pace, and we will try to get you as much information as we can, as fast as we can, and continue to be as transparent as we can. Yes, go ahead, and I'll come right back to you, ma'am.
You mentioned fake reporting. Can you clarify some of this discussing? Right?
Sheriff, you want to touch?
It's just, like I said, misinformation, and it is being passed out, and like I said, and we don't believe it's from anybody here, but y'all know, in the media, y'all understand there's a lot of people that have their own pages, their own YouTube channels, and everything.
Their own agendas.
Their own agendas, and they're putting information out that is just 100% not true. I mean, we talk to families that, you know, they're seeing this, and it's hurtful to them, and we've met with the families and explained the same thing with them, is there's a lot of stuff out there that's fake and not true, and made them aware of it. No, it's not anything. I think Sheriff Davis
afternoon. We are live on the Fox Local app, YouTube, and of course on Fox 35 TV. Coming up today on Florida Live, quite a packed show for you. First up, Gilbert King will be here. He is an award-winning author and University of South Florida grad. King's most recent book, Bone Valley, a true story of injustice and redemption in the heart of Florida, dives into the wrongful conviction of a Lake County man named Leo Schofield. Leo will also be here in the studio with us. We'll be chatting with both men about this wild case. Then a New York man accused of boating under the influence, injuring 2 kids in Florida. This is making headlines right now, and we will have the latest on that as well. Finally, on today's show, Monday morning quarterbacking. We are all used to that phrase. We're going to be taking a look through a fiery Florida football weekend. But we do begin with the story of Leo Schofield and his wife, Michelle. Leo and Michelle were married young, just 6 months after their wedding. Instead of soaking up the newlywed bliss, Michelle was found dead in a pit in Lakeland. She was stabbed multiple times. 2 years later, her husband Leo was convicted of the crime, a murder he always insisted he did not commit. 15 years into his life sentence, previously unidentified fingerprints found on Michelle's car were matched to a new suspect in the case. That was Jeremy Scott. Scott, on several occasions, has confessed to the killing of Michelle. But despite the fingerprint evidence and his confessions, Leo Schofield was denied multiple requests for an appeal over the years. Last year, he was finally granted parole and now seeks a full exoneration. In total, he spent 36 years behind bars. Joining us now in studio is Leo Schofield and Pulitzer Prize winner Gilbert King. Thank you both so much for being here with us this afternoon. Again, I said a wild case. Leo, I want to begin with you. 36 years behind bars, multiple decades. First and foremost, how does it feel to finally be out, but also know legally you still really haven't been cleared of this crime?
Right. And so thank you for saying that. It is amazing to be out. Obviously, prison's rough, and it's a different world coming out, but I'm so happy to be here and, you know, struggling with, you know, the transition. It's pretty hard after 36 years, but I'm making it.
And Leo, that fight, you know, it's not yet done. You are on the road to clearing your name completely for this.
Right, and we're working hard on that exoneration. Gilbert's helped make connections with me, for me, and we have some great people that are working toward. I believe that the state of Florida will make this thing right. So.
Leo, your case, I mean, it's grabbed national attentions. It obviously grabbed the attention of Gilbert here. Gilbert, you wrote a novel about this case. You were on the forefront, really, of getting eyes on this case. Walk me through how it caught your attention and how you got connected with each other.
I was speaking at a judicial conference in Naples, and a judge came up to me and passed the card with Leo's name on it.
Okay.
And it said, Leo Schofield, not just wrongfully convicted, he's an innocent man. And when a judge gives you a card like that, saying that somebody's been framed for a murder and he's still in prison, it gets your attention.
Oh, yeah.
I looked into it. I've spent about 7 years on it, and the more I look, the more clear it becomes. It's a totally innocent man. It's not a whodunit either. We know who killed him. He's forensically linked to the crime scene, and he's confessed. So once I saw a case like that, I'm like, I got to get to the bottom of this. Why is this man still in prison?
And you are no stranger to delving into injustices within the judicial system. Pulitzer Prize winner, you previously wrote a book about the Groveland Four.
Right.
So these kind of stories spark your interest for sure, and it's all about justice for you, I guess.
Yeah, and for some reason, Central Florida has no shortage of these kind of injustices. So I started diving into this and found pretty much exactly what I found when I was looking into the Groveland case, that there was an innocent man accused and convicted of a crime that he didn't commit. The difference with this one, and the reason I wrote this book, was because he's still in prison at the time I'm doing this. And it's like, that felt abhorrent to me, that, it's obvious who did this, we can prove it, there's evidence, and yet the state is sort of doubling down and keeping him in prison, and that just really bothered me.
And to this day, I did see, one of the assistant ADAs on the case, assistant district attorney, is still upset about this. I mean, he's looking at you, specifically at the book, and then the podcast further after, saying that, Leo should be behind bars, but you guys are saying no, not at all.
I mean, that's the funny thing about, there's been 3,500 wrongful convictions, people who've been exonerated by DNA cases, and they say the exact same thing. A jury convicted them and they lost their appeals. That's the one thing they all have in common until they're exonerated. And then we know that this is a case that Leo is deserving of exoneration. And there's some very powerful people who are looking into it the same way they did with the Groveland Four. So I'm very optimistic about it.
And Leo, I mean, 36 years behind bars. The entire time you maintained this was not you. There was fingerprint evidence pointing that it wasn't you. There was confessions pointing that it wasn't you. This whole time you're frustrated because you're trying to prove your innocence, but you're being ignored.
Right. Yeah, and that's really tough, because the whole time I know I am innocent, and I expected the justice system to get this right, and so it was definitely frustrating. However, I just want to say that at this point, there's so much evidence now, it's overwhelming. And so I am hopeful, and I told Gilbert last night, I want to always leave a door open for the ADA and for anybody over there to come to the table with me, sit down and let's talk about this thing, because I'm not trying to hurt them in any kind of way, hurt their reputations. I'm not after money. I'm after justice for my wife, who can't stand for herself, and she deserves it.
I do have to ask, I mean, how did you spend those decades? I mean, was it just combing through legal documents and trying to, understand better the system so you could, in fact, help your case?
Yeah, absolutely. I ended up going to school, I think, in 1998. I've been in education the whole time I was in prison. That's how I got through it. In 1998, I went to the University of Florida, and I did a 2-year paralegal certificate program to learn how to, operate in the courtroom and file those motions and understand what was happening to me. And I spent a lot of time doing that. It takes a long time, and there were many times where we filed post-conviction motions. This case has been well litigated, as the state's constantly saying, but it's been ignored. The facts have been ignored. Just because you're in court a million times doesn't mean you're getting it right.
Yeah.
The point is not how many times. The point is whether it's right or wrong. And we've always been fighting from the side of right.
And I do want to point out, I mean, you had some, I won't say highs in prison, but you have moved on personally. You've remarried, and you've been married for quite some time now. Right. Chrissy, I believe your wife's name. Right. How do you look to her, and in this partnership, in order to get through this tough time? I mean, you now have moved on, and it's a rough past to have, though. Right.
And I told her that from the beginning. I told her it's going to be rough, because prison is rough and the courtrooms are rough. But she was pretty tenacious, and without her, I don't think we're here. She was the one that really bulldogged this case and made things happen, and so that's how you get through day to day. You're fighting, you have a purpose. The darkest times of my time in prison was when we weren't in the courtroom, we didn't have anything filed. Those are hard times, because nothing's going to happen if you don't file something. And so we were constantly in the fight. She stayed in the fight, and and really got this case to where it is today, and got other people who are involved in it, including Scott Cupp and others who have come along, and grateful to her for that.
So it was kind of the light at the end of the tunnel that kept you moving forward, was, you know, being
Right.
able to know that there was something left to fight for.
Exactly. So you have to have that light, because if you don't, it's very despairing in prison. There's a lot of men in there that are doing a lot of time, and you got to have that hope.
And you haven't stopped with that hope. I mean, it has been on full drive since you've been out on a speaking tour. Walk me through how that process has been, and the hope that you just get your story out there.
Yeah, I'm following Gilbert's lead on this, because he's kind of dragging me out. Not dragging me out. I love going around and speak, because it's awareness.
Yeah.
You know, people need to be aware of what's happened to me, because it didn't just happen to me. And so I'm very grateful to Gilbert for all he's put into this case and the belief that he has in me, and getting the opportunity to speak to many people. We spoke to 125 circuit court judges in Ohio, 250 federal magistrates all over the country in Pittsburgh, and I believe we're getting this right. We're going to close the gap on people falling in wrongful convictions.
And this case, I mean, it's really gotten so much attention over the last few years. There's been a huge surge, you know, in true crime and looking into the, you know, justice system and people being wrongfully incarcerated. How do you both feel about the attention you've personally received on it? Leo, I guess you answer first.
Yeah.
How do I feel? Honestly, this is surreal to me, you know, because where I've been, where I've come from, you know, now I'm doing this. I was in prison a year and a half ago, and now I'm on a book tour. You know, I never imagined that ever happening. And so I'm meeting all these incredible people, meeting you. You know, I'm sitting here going, this is me now, this is my life. And so it means a lot. This is a good purpose to have for my life, and I'm very grateful for it.
Maybe not the way you planned it to go, but you're taking every day as it comes.
Absolutely.
And Gilbert, same for you. I mean, you're not shy of the spotlight. I mean, Pulitzer Prize award winner here in our presence. That's a huge deal. But how does that compare with this story? I mean, you're sitting next to the subject of your novel.
Right. I mean, all my other books take place in the 1940s, and everybody's dead. I'm only looking at documents. The reason his case was so different was that I would go into prison and visit him and interview him, and it was really hard to, you know, go through the details of his case and just hear the heartbreak and the anguish and the trauma that he would walk me through. And I get to go home and eat a nice meal, and he goes back into his cell with the memories of what he just recounted. That's why this case really moved me. Every time I'd meet with him, I met with him 12 times in prison alone, and I can't tell you how many other conversations. But you know, it was very clear to me very early on that this man was wrongfully convicted, and we know who did this. And I think just getting out there and having us speak together on this tour, it's been really impressive. There's a lot of people that have come out and say, we want to help you with this, we believe this. And so that's been really inspiring.
And I do want to get to that wrongful, you know, conviction again. So the man who you guys strongly believe did this, Jeremy Scott, over the years, multiple times, and with you personally, he has admitted that he was the one who murdered Michelle. Can you even comprehend why something that would be, you know, an admittance of guilt right there would just be kind of swept under the rug? I mean, does that make sense to either of your minds?
It doesn't to me. This man has confessed multiple times in great detail that only the killer could know. And he answered so many questions that were never answered in this case, you know, by his confession and the details that he has given. I'm really grateful actually to him for having the courage to do what was right and admitting to this, but it's still an incredible, painful story, you know, to hear. And when you hear his confession, when I heard his confession, it nearly broke me.
Well, at the end of the day, it's your wife.
Right,
I mean, this was your wife, Michelle. You'd been married for 6 months. Young, love, you know, you're supposed to be going through all these happy occasions, and then you're accused of something horrific for the woman that you loved, and then to know that his fingerprints were on her car. Had you ever seen this man before?
No, not until this happened. Until I never knew him, I never saw him, and what I was looking for was this monster. You know, and when I finally see him, he's confessing, I realized that he's not the monster that I was looking for. He's a broken individual that, you know, had his own history and his own past.
I was going to say, I mean, he's not an upstanding citizen. I mean,
no, not at all.
He was serving time for a previous horrific crime.
Right, and he's done that several times. We believe he's committed crimes that are not even solved yet. but it was difficult, and I'm not justifying what he's done by saying, you know, he has his own past. I'm just saying it's understandable how he got there when we look at him, and I think Gilbert helped me with that a lot.
Yeah, and that was one of the hardest parts, because I interviewed him in prison, and he was just completely remorseful. He was being haunted by what he'd done. He told me, I go to bed at night and I see the faces of the people I killed, and it's torture for me. It's a nightmare. And I could sense he was really feeling the weight and the guilt of this.
Yeah.
And sometimes he would call me up years later and just say, ask how Leo was doing. And he would say very casually, like, I hope I can sit down with him and tell him I'm sorry for what I did, because I ruined his life and I took his wife. And he was sincere, and he's never backed off that to me. He's admitted to other murders he committed in this area that are unsolved, that I'm still working on.
I mean, much to come with this case. I mean, clearly not open and shut.
Right.
You guys will remain, you know, in that quest to exonerate Leo's name, I'm sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you both so much for joining me today. I really appreciate
Thank you for
it.
having us, Hannah. We
Yeah,
really
thank
appreciate
you. Best
it.
of luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move ahead because we are going to be heading to break. But here's a live look now over downtown Orlando from our SunTrust camera. Florida Live will be right back in just a few minutes. Please stay with us.
Hey, yes, I can. Awesome.
Welcome back into Florida Live. It is now time for our Tampa connection, and we are going to head straight out to Fox 13 Tampa senior content producer Nancy Gay. So Nancy, the big story out of Tampa today, an attempted kidnapping. This is going to grab all of our attention. What's going on?
Yes, this actually happened on Friday night when a homeless man tried to kidnap a 15-year-old girl from a Circle K gas station parking lot in Clearwater. Now, this situation could have been much worse, but some witnesses, they were able to step in and rescue that girl. We're being told that Eric Butler was seen grabbing the girl by her shoulders and then bear hugging her and dragging her away from that Circle K parking lot. And he was actually taking her to a nearby park where he said that he had interactions with that girl in the past. This 15-year-old girl, she was reported as a runaway, but as he was dragging her to that nearby park, those witnesses followed. They were able to free that girl from his grasp, and Butler, he took off, but he was caught shortly afterward by police, and he was arrested. Now, Butler, he has been charged with kidnapping, possession of cocaine, exposure of sexual organs, as well as resisting arrest. Now, some people that we spoke with who live in that area, they said they'd seen him in the area before, and they're actually not too surprised this has happened. They said that this area isn't exactly the best area in the world, but they are trying to do everything they can to keep it safe and report some of the things that they are seeing, just like here where the witnesses, they saw something, they were able to help that girl and get her free.
Nancy, that's a terrifying story. It sounds like almost, anyone's worst nightmare right there. Thankfully, those good Samaritans at the right time, at the right place, able to step in and save that girl.
Yeah, they were definitely in the right place at the right time. I mean, I can't even imagine. She was just in this parking lot, and here comes this man up to her, grabs her shoulders, bear hugs her, and starts dragging her away. So I'm sure she is very, very grateful that these witnesses, they were there at the right place at the right time, and they were able to free her from his grasp.
Wow. And that's not even the biggest story. There's also another huge one, a jet ski crash out of Pinellas County. What's going on there?
Yes, this happened yesterday afternoon around 2:30. John Gilbert, he is rented a wave runner out near John's Pass, and investigators say that he was actually racing alongside another jet ski. So his head was turned toward that jet ski. He was racing, not in front of him, and they said that when he turned his head in front of him, he noticed that he was about to collide with another jet ski. Those investigators say he then jumped off of his jet ski, and the wave runner that he was on slammed right into that jet ski that was in front of him. Now, that jet ski was being driven by a man in his 40s, but also on board were two children. One child was 7 years old, another child was 8 years old. Both of those children, they were taken to a nearby hospital, and we've been told that one of those kids actually suffered life-threatening conditions. We are not sure what condition she is in right now, but we were told that her injuries, or that child's injuries, were life-threatening. Now, the sheriff's office said Gilbert, at the time of the crash, he showed signs of impairment, and he actually performed poorly on field sobriety tests. So he was charged with boating under the influence, causing serious bodily injury, and 1 count of reckless operation of a vessel.
Nancy, just a horrible story there. What's supposed to be a fun day out on a wave runner ends in complete tragedy, and we definitely hope for a speedy recovery for all involved. Third up, though, I mean, we've got another one, another crazy one, a scary moment for neighbors who had to be evacuated after some sort of hazmat situation.
Yes, that's right. This morning, several homes in Tampa were evacuated due to this hazmat situation. Now, crews with Tampa Fire Rescue, they were called out to this home on South Covina Circle this morning for what was initially reported as a structure fire because of a large amount of smoke in the area. However, when those firefighters got to that neighborhood, they deemed this a hazardous materials situation. Now, Tampa Fire Rescue's hazardous materials team, as well as the Tampa Police Department's bomb squad, they went to that scene, and we were able to talk with some of the neighbors, and here's what they had to say.
And it was really a big poof of smoke. I mean, not a little one, it was everywhere. And I could tell it was some kind of chemicals. I told my neighbor, I said, this is chemicals, and we need to get away from here.
As of right now, we are still looking into what has caused this hazmat situation. We're not exactly sure what happened, but we do have crews on the scene, and we will be out there all day to try to figure out what's going on. Now, Tampa Fire Rescue, they did say that they evacuated those residents out of an abundance of caution. Again, they are still working to determine what caused this hazmat situation in this Tampa neighborhood.
Nancy, I know you guys will keep us updated. Thank you so much. That's Fox 13 Tampa senior content producer Nancy Gay. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alrighty, as we head to break, we have a live look over downtown Orlando this afternoon. Looking beautiful on this Monday. We are so glad you're here with us on Florida Live. We will be right back in a few minutes. Alrighty, a live look now over at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. We have seen some major rip currents and rough surf here for several days. You can still see the white caps rolling in right now. Welcome back to Florida Live. I'm Hannah MacKenzie. Thanks for joining us on Fox Local, YouTube, and Fox 35 TV. We have Chris Lindsay joining us now. So Chris, double red flags have been flying at Volusia County beaches for most of the weekend. Those conditions just lifted around noon today, but there has been a lot of aftermath following all this.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, double flags, meaning to stay out of the water completely for the public, that was lifted, and now it's down to a single red flag, which means you should be mindful, always staying in front of a lifeguard tower, because there is a high rip current risk. With these rip currents, they've had to rescue people out of the water, so they advise you to avoid the water if you can, but if you do choose and find yourself caught up in one, that you should swim parallel to the shore. With all these storms, there have been a very rough surf. There's been some coastal flooding. There's been high winds, et cetera, et cetera. So just a lot of things to keep an eye on here when you're out here on the coast.
Chris, any word so far of people maybe not heeding that double red flag warning? Have law enforcement had to step in at all?
Yeah, anytime they have these sort of warnings, they have all hands on deck on the beach. The lifeguard towers are fully staffed to make sure that people are heeding those warnings. I haven't had any word of people breaking the warning when it was in effect. This afternoon, we have seen some people out here on the water. Again, this was after they lowered it down to the single red flag, which means high rip current risk.
I mean, we're getting a live look right now, and it doesn't look like a situation I personally would want to get into. When you were out there on the beach, were people just kind of looking around, or did you see maybe some surfers or swimmers out there?
Funny enough, we have these high rip current risks, and it is a very dangerous situation for most people. But anytime I speak with surfers or people who do water activities such as that, they actually enjoy these sort of conditions. So there were people out there surfing, there were people out there on their boards, because to them, these are the sort of conditions that they like when they're doing their particular activity. Of course, they always advise you to do even those sorts of things in front of the lifeguard towers, because even if you are a expert surfer or swimmer, you can also find yourself in danger when it comes to these currents.
I think it's, for law enforcement and beach patrol, those are the folks they don't really mind to see out there, the people that do have experience and are, somewhat professional. But us being here in Florida, we are such a vacation destination. People who don't have much experience with beaches, they see it and they just want to get out there. They're like, well, I have a week in Florida. I want to head out to the beach and make the most of it, even when they shouldn't.
Absolutely, and that's why they do the best they can to inform people. There are signs on the highways coming over here to the coast. They have the lifeguards blowing whistles, and they try to get the messaging out as much as they can. All the towers have signs on them that instructs you what a rip current is, and information is the #1 tool that they have to make sure that people are staying safe.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for joining us. That's Chris Lindsay. He is in Volusia County tonight. He will have a report coming up on Fox 35 at 5 and 6. Chris, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Alrighty, making global headlines. All 20 remaining living hostages in Israel have been freed. That's following the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Earlier today, Fox 35's Marie Edinger spoke with Gray Bull Rescue. They've been running rescue flights to get freed hostages and Americans stranded in Israel back home for the last 2 years. We're going to listen in on some of that conversation.
We're here. We came out really to be here with the people. We've been in Israel one way or the other, in the region one way or the other, since for the last 737 days, since October 7th. As soon as October 7th happened, we deployed right away and got on the ground here. We've done missions in Israel. We've done missions in Lebanon. We've done missions in Syria and Jordan and Cyprus and Egypt and Gaza and all these other places for the last 737 days, on top of all the other work that we do in other places like Haiti and the rest. But for 737 days, the hostages have been a topic of conversation of every ops meeting we've ever had for the last 2 years and change. So with this momentous occasion, it was almost we felt that almost we had to be here, almost not just to celebrate their return, but also a little bit of closure for us too. This has been a very, very, very tough 2 years for my team. We spent a lot of time away, a lot of time rescuing Americans, thousands of them through the Iran-Israel war this year, Hezbollah, Gaza, Hamas, all kinds of missiles, artillery, rockets, all kinds of stuff. So it all started 737 days today, and it's just amazing that at least this chapter is closed.
So at this point, you're not evacuating people; you're just there on the grounds, as a kind of like. Yeah. We have we wanted to see a lot of our friends that have been with us side by side, our partners that we have here on the ground, and other folks within the Israeli national security community and diplomatic community. This is a huge day. This is not as huge as October 7th was, not as huge as that, but up there as far as milestones go.
Tell me about the rescues that y'all do. So when you use that term, and when you're there on the ground and you refer to.
It is always great to see Central Florida represented on a global level, doing great stuff out there. Alrighty, here is a live look over Lake Mary from our tower camera this afternoon. Traffic already starting to pile up out there. Glad you are watching here with us. Florida Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Florida Live. I'm Hannah MacKenzie. Thanks for joining us on Fox Local, YouTube, and Fox 35 TV. Well, it was a big Florida football weekend, breaking high school records, a dominant USF Bulls team continuing to turn heads, and one of the best catches you'll probably see this year. We broke down the standouts and a kicking performance that left us scratching our heads. On Monday morning, quarterbacking with Tim Walters, sports editor for the Florida Times-Union and Florida Today. Check it out.
Yeah, there's always so many great high school football performances, and I have to pick through a lot of them because we have 17 news sites in the state of Florida owned by the USA Today network. So a lot of things to search through. The one that really stood out to me, there's a young man named Jaden Pettit at St. John Newman, which is in Naples. Now, this guy the other night, the day after his 18th birthday, which was Thursday, he comes out Friday and he catches 8 passes for 215 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, he's a Wisconsin commit, so hopefully he makes them better because they're terrible if you saw what happened to Wisconsin this weekend. But he also, in doing so, broke the Southwest Florida career receiving yards record. It had been 3,162 yards. He needed 187 yards to break the record, got 215. So he's now 28 ahead of that record, 3,190 yards with, 3 more games to go in the season or 2 more games. So he's going to continue to build on that record. He also, the 6 touchdowns is tied for the second best showing ever by a wide receiver. In fact, that record is 7 held by Orlando Colonial's Ralph Santana, done way back in 1998. Now, the other cool thing about this is he did it against First Baptist, which is his former team. So he played for them last year. He transferred to Newman this year, and then he absolutely waylays his old team. And the record that he broke, the Southwest Florida receiving record, was also a record that was held by a former First Baptist player from many years ago. So just a great job this weekend by Jaden Pettit, the senior. I'm sure we'll be hearing his name out of Wisconsin next year, but 6 touchdowns, 215 yards. Good job, young man.
Oh, but a birthday present of stomping on your old high school team. I mean, what a better way to celebrate and ring in a weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday to him. An 18th birthday he will remember for his entire life.
Oh, another performance to remember out of USF, out of Tampa. I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah, oh my goodness, that game the other night, I'm watching that at the half. It was like, what was it? I believe it was 21-21 at the half. And then all of a sudden, USF explodes for 42 points in the second half. I don't know what that speech was that Coach gave at halftime. And I keep saying maybe he'll be the replacement for Billy Napier when he eventually goes at Florida. But I certainly couldn't pick anyone from FSU or Florida to be our college standout. So I'm reaching there to USF. Byram Brown accounted for 5 touchdowns. He was a very efficient 22 for 28 for 245 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then he also ran 21 times for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. In that third quarter to break the tie, they only scored 4 touchdowns in 3.5 minutes, which was absolutely insane. But only 3 of them, 3 of them were offensive because you always need a good fumble recovery for a touchdown. So they got one of them from Jalen Schumer, a 34-yard rumble by that guy. But, a great game there for USF. And then also I want to give a shout out to their wide receiver, and I love his name, Christian Neptune. What a wonderful football name. But your wide receiver taking the ball, he threw a 29-yard touchdown pass to Keshawn Singleton to get in on the action. That was when the game was tied 21-21. They come out with a trick play with a receiver throwing a touchdown to take the 28-21 lead, and that was the spark where they never looked back. USF, what a good team they are. And if you look at what they've done this season, they didn't look that terrible in their one loss to Miami. But in 2 weeks, they have their only other real test. Memphis is the only ranked team left on their schedule. If they get by Memphis, I don't think they have another loss. You could be looking at one of the 12 playoff teams in USF, which would be one of the true Cinderella great surprises of this 2025 college football season.
I was about to say, and Miami has looked so dominant that you almost kind of overlook that loss when you're thinking about the totality of USF season. There really is a good shot that we're looking at a playoff team here.
Yeah, they put together such a good team there. The defense has lots of really good players. You wonder how some of these guys weren't recruited by bigger schools than USF. And if you remember, just a couple of years ago, USF, they were an absolute floor mat. They turned this thing around quickly, and they have some true NFL prospects on that roster. And North Texas, they came in undefeated. Like I said, real even game through a half. I don't know what was said at halftime, but that second half was something to behold. North Texas, they had no answer, and USF was just going up and down the field on them.
One of the greatest catches we've seen in a long time out of the Bucs. I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah, so my choice this week for the NFL standout, and look, you could look at the Buccaneers and pick a lot of players, because what a game they had against the 49ers. But the catch by the rookie, Tez Johnson, I want to make sure I get his name right. Tez, T-E-Z. Now, this is interesting all around, right? Because you have this all-world rookie in Emeka Egbuka, who has been having this great season. He goes out of the game with a hamstring injury early in the third quarter. They bring Tez Johnson in, and Baker Mayfield's like, I don't care if it's Emeka, I don't care if it's Tez. You run toward the end zone, and I'm going to chuck one out there. And that's exactly what he did. That ball was put at least 45, 50 yards through the air. It ended up being a 45 touchdown total. But Johnson, it looked like he had no shot at that ball. It looked like it was 10 yards ahead of him. And then as if he had Inspector Gadget arms, he just stuck out these like Stretch Armstrong arms. Somehow the ball stuck in his hands. It was his only reception for 45 yards and a touchdown. One of the best catches you'll see this year, if not in many years. So if you haven't seen that, you got to go to wherever you can find that catch and watch that, because it was that phenomenal. And again, a big win for the Buccaneers. They are now 5-1. Baker Mayfield truly looking like an MVP candidate. And you got to like what's going on down there in Tampa Bay. They're so far ahead in their division that, you don't want to say they can cruise for a little bit, but you don't want your guys getting hurt. Let your running back get healthy there, because he had to sit. And so, but Rashad White filling in great there. So, let's keep the Bucs healthy and rolling, because what a fun team to watch there. And the defense is living up to it too. It's not just the offense.
Yeah, great job with the Bucs. Interesting job by the Jaguars this year. Tell me about your head scratcher for this week.
Yeah, my head scratcher. Now, there's a lot about that Jaguars game that left me scratching my head. I'll start with my true head scratcher. Their kicker, Cam Little. This is a guy who in the preseason kicked a 70-yard field goal. At Oklahoma, he was 129 for 129 on extra points. Never missed one in 4 years of college. And in his first year and a half in the NFL, he was 40 for 40. Comes out and misses an extra point to start. So instead of being up 7-0, you're up 6-0. And then later on, they're down 10-6. The Jaguars are trailing by 4 points, should have been 3. And then Cam Little misses a 50-yard field goal, something he'd only done, I believe, once or twice in his NFL career. Now, some people are saying, hey, do they need to bring in kickers, try out people? I'm not going to go that far yet, because this guy has the resume and the long standing that he's a good kicker. You got to figure out what's going on. Sometimes you get the yips. Sometimes it's in your head. He knows he's got to fix it. I give Cam Little a little bit more time. We got to get that straight. But as far as the Jaguars are concerned, Trevor Lawrence, you can't let your franchise quarterback get sacked 7 times. It's that simple. Now, why don't you normally see a quarterback sacked 7 times? Because usually they get injured after the first 4 or 5 or 6. Luckily, Trevor wasn't hurt. He was just absolutely pasted, though. And you know what? He didn't throw any interceptions. He didn't fumble the ball. He actually had close to 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's not that he played terribly. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't block those guys. It's hard. You got a rookie center starting in Monheim, taking over for an experienced center that got hurt last week. So there are those things there. Anton Harrison's been a little banged up. But those guys, they cannot let Trevor Lawrence just get dinged up that much. And then penalties. The penalties are just dreadful. Liam Cohen addressed that after the game, and he talked about how you can't have that many just dumb penalties. You had a 50-something yard touchdown erased because Travis Hunter's toe was half an inch over the invisible line. I thought that was a pretty chintzy call, but hey, you know what? It looked like his foot was. Line up better. They're holding, they're illegal formations, and it's sloppy. It is absolutely sloppy. So they're lucky they're 4-2 right now, but they have a lot to fix, and it's going to be hard fixing those things because they're going to be flying out early tomorrow to go to London London, stop holding, stop false starting, line up correctly, just do the little things, because they have the defense to stay in it. Devin Lloyd didn't play yesterday, which was another big issue. And you should be getting Trayvon Walker back. He was on the sideline with that club on his left hand after wrist surgery. And, with him, I was talking about this with one of my colleagues. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Trayvon Walker in real life. He's a giant. Like, he is truly a giant. He's close to 6.5 feet tall, close to 300 pounds. Now put a giant white club on his arm and have him running at you screaming. I would just lay in a ball and weep, probably. So, he'll probably be back next week. I'm not sure if he'll play with the club or if they'll have something different on that left arm. But, he should be back. So they are doing some things. They're going to be getting some of these players back. But do the simple things and take care of your quarterback.
Take care of your quarterback. Alrighty, we are heading to break, but first, a live look over Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay, home of the Bucs. They're not back home until November 9th, and that is when they will be taking on the Patriots. We'll be right back with more Florida Live after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to Florida Live. I'm Hannah MacKenzie. Thanks for joining us on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35 TV. Well, a pretty tough loss for UCF football in Cincinnati Saturday. The Knights lost 11-20, sitting at a 3-3 record heading into this weekend's big matchup with West Virginia. Head football coach Scott Frost spoke about the state of the starting QB competition and the matchup ahead of this afternoon. So here's some of what he said. Let's take a listen.
I think we're going to have all hands on deck. So now it comes down to who gives us the best chance. And honestly, probably that'll come down to a coach's decision and who practices better this week.
Scott, you guys are at the midway point of the season. How do you assess where you guys are right now at this point, and what do you like, what you don't like, and where do you think you guys will improve this area?
You know, it sounds like coach speak. There was a lot of positive to take from Saturday, and that's true. Really liked the fight of our team, and I told them that afterwards. I knew this year was going to be a growth process because just of our relative inexperience and 70 new players. it would be really nice to be 4-2, 5-1 right now, and we had our chances. Like I said, I don't think we were outmatched in any one of those 3 games. We just got to execute better, and that falls on the coaching staff and the players, just to keep finding ways throughout this season to keep improving, and we're going to have a chance in every game. So there's no reason we can't do some special things here down the road.
You mentioned needing to execute better and keep fighting. The Knights have been in very close games for the past 3 weeks. What needs to change to get over this slump that you guys are in, and what's the confidence level in the room?
I think the confidence level is fine. I really liked the frustration but togetherness of the team in the locker room after the game. When you're learning new things and coming together as a football team, it's not always going to happen the same. It's going to happen different every time. And when you're not experienced, then new situations can affect you different every time. At Kansas State, I didn't think we start very fast. At Kansas, we did start fast. And then one thing that's common is just key mistakes at the wrong times right now. And like I said, we're going to keep coaching those things, but we kind of got to be in those situations and experience them and then handle them better the next time.
You just mentioned mistakes. What has to change during a week of practice to reduce or eliminate the mistakes you're seeing on Saturday?
Yeah, we talked about that a lot, and it's not changing the formula. The formula has worked and will work, but if we need to alter it and not be doggedly committed to one way of doing things, then we will, and we'll find little ways to tweak practice to make sure that we're getting exactly what we need. It's hard to recreate with a defense like we played last week. It's hard to recreate all the looks that we were going to get from them because it was a little different every time, and that's the biggest thing is when the looks aren't exactly what we practiced. You still just got to fall back on your rules and execute, and I think that's where we can get a little bit better.
So is that a lack of discipline?
No, again, it's not discipline. It's experience. You're expecting to have a combo block off to this guy, and then they blitz inside, and the guy you were going to combo to disappears to another spot, and somebody else shows up, and you got to be a good enough football player to come off the combo to a safety instead of a linebacker. Those kind of things happen over the course of a game. Now the false starts and things of that nature at key times, that's concerning to me, and we got to keep addressing that and make sure. Because they don't seem to be happening when everything's going smooth. They happen at key moments, and we got to make sure and fix that.
Coach, from your perspective, I know we've been talking about a lot of penalties and all hands, all deck. For one, it feels like, with a lot of the rotation, a lot of guys changing up with injuries, that's part of the challenge too. But from a coaching perspective, not looking for the playbook or anything like that, but are there any drills you can run or any techniques that you're using to try to get over those mental stumps?
No, I think it's just keep practicing. Again, we can try to make practice a little more game-like. It's kind of hard to explain, but you have to do enough in practice to execute the plays you're putting in for the game on offense, to make sure that the guys know their scheme and know the adjustments depending on what we're going to get. If you try to run all those reps 100 miles an hour, you're going to kill your guys. So we just have to be smart about making sure they know their stuff and getting enough game speed reps to make sure that they're ready to not just execute it, but execute it well.
So, and it's that challenge then of balancing health with trying to get maximized experience in practice before a game day, I guess is what we're hearing.
Yeah, but it's not unique to us. That's football in general. Having just come from the NFL, they have more walkthroughs than they do practice plays. But a lot of those guys have been playing football for a long time, and you can just get sitting in a meeting room and say, hey, we're altering this and changing this, and you're going to run this route on this play, and they write it down, and they're good. We have a team that needs more reps than that. But again, you can't take 300 reps of practice on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, or you won't be able to run on Saturdays. So it's growth, and we're going to try to be as smart with it as we can.
After watching the film, do you feel like the receivers are getting enough separation against the opposing coverages? How do you try to maybe scheme guys open and make things more consistently explosive?
Well, I think that's the big thing right now is we're really good sometimes. We throw to the right guy sometimes. We block really well sometimes. We run the route precisely sometimes, and we catch it sometimes. And defensively was good, but we busted a couple coverages, so we're in the right coverage sometimes. That needs to be most of the time or all the time, and then we become really good. But again, that's a process.
Coach, you have Rich Rodriguez coming to town this week, same position as you, returning to an old team. Just what's it like to have some, I guess, another kindred spirit coaching against you this weekend?
Well, first thing I want to say about Coach Rodriguez is after what happened with Coach Clark passing away, man, I got a big envelope of letters from, I think, everybody in their athletic department, individually written and signed. And I think that speaks to the class of who Coach Rodriguez is, and obviously the people in that athletic department too. So I want to say thank you for that. We received a lot of notes and messages, but I opened the envelope and all the cards fell out, and it's a lot of them. And I thought that was a really high character thing to do.
Coach, this past weekend with Cam Fancher out there, he basically looked like Houdini on some of those plays, getting out of the, avoiding the sack and things like that. What were you seeing out there from him?
You know, in the course of a game, you can scheme everything up and try to hit as much as you can based off the plays you designed. But you know, there's going to be 5 or 6, sometimes 3, sometimes 10 plays that break down, and you have a quarterback that can turn those plays into good plays. Then you extend drives, and that makes you even better. I thought he did a great job of that. There shouldn't have been as much running around as he had to do Saturday. If we protect a little better, get balls off on time, run a little cleaner routes. You know, I don't want a quarterback looking like Fran Tarkenton back there and running around. We got to be a little better and more precise with our execution, so that only has to happen once in a while. But I thought he played tough and did a good job with that.
Carter Miller the other day at center, there's some uncharacteristic things from him, the penalties, the low snaps. Was that kind of an off game for them, or was Cincinnati kind of doing something to throw him off?
You know, they had a really good player lined up, head up with him at nose, and I don't know, he was in a battle, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it. There were a couple snaps that were off, and we haven't had that problem all through spring ball, fall camp, into this point in the season. So we'll talk to him about it, but I don't want to make something that's not a thing either. But those can hurt you, and we had a couple broken plays because of it.
What have you thought about his game this entire season, though? He's been pretty solid, though.
Carter's great. You know, we have 70 new players. I think the coaching staff and recruiting department did a great job bringing guys in. Again, we leaned on talent, maybe over experience, because that's what we could get. I think we have a lot of talented guys. Carter is a guy definitely that we're really glad to have here, and he's one of the bell cows of what we're trying to do on offense, and hopefully will be for a while.
Coaches, obviously you guys have had a positive mindset just after last game. Just more specifically, what's kind of the overall message you're sending to the team leading up to the game against West Virginia?
We just got to play our best, and we got to play 4 quarters. And the guys have been close now a few weeks in a row and had opportunities 3 weeks in a row. We got to capitalize on it. And what happened in the first 3 weeks didn't affect the next 3, and what happened in the last 3 won't affect the next 3.
Knights head coach laying it all out right there, hoping for a better result next game. And that does it for us today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on Florida Live. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow.